Hi, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Talent Movies. I'm Ramya,
I'm Asid.
and today we're going to talk about The Rise of Dhanush. So his actual name is Venkatesh Prabhu Kasturi Raja.
Yeah, I
Um,
think his dad's name is Kasturi Raja
okay,
because for Silver Raghavan, his second part of his name is Kasturi Raja too.
he's won 3 National Film Awards, but
And he's
he's
signing
also,
up he's signing up
yeah,
so many
literally,
projects.
I'm like sitting there and I'm like, okay, he signed this movie. Okay, he signed this movie, but let's see what happens.
I
He's
think,
actually one
yeah.
of the actors that hasn't played a cop or an army man.
Well, he did kind of in that's his one movie, and then the second half he's a army man or something, isn't he?
And what?
It's like one of his first few, like second or third maybe. Let's find
His
out.
first was like
Yeah, and the
Julio the
first was in it.
Eternal.
Yeah, that was in it.
Yeah.
Wait, let me find it.
Was it Pudukottai Saravanan? Is that the one he wrestles in? Because that's the one like he did like Bruce Lee stuff, and people were like, "Oh, he's a new Bruce Lee." I'm pretty sure he just did karate, but everyone called him Bruce Lee after that. But he might play it soon. Like we don't know. He signed a couple of films. He is a singer, and he's a producer too. He's produced some great films like Kakamutta and Papandi and
And
Nayam
Visadana,
Vadivaram.
I think he's a very talented actor, and he's done some really good movies, and he does choose good projects as well. Yeah, he has chosen some good stories, and there was a time when he was one of the main people who do like going from zero to a hero, literally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so he was really good at those kind of movies. But even though
Hmm.
he's moved on from that now, when you watch those movies, you still enjoy it. We are going to talk about the movies that we liked from Dhanush's filmography. And even though there were loads of movies he did, we just wanted to choose the ones that were our favorites. So we're going to start off with,
Kathokonde.
yeah.
Okay, so it's a 2003 film directed by Selvaragavan. I think that's his first film, right? Like
So
first
he did one before, but this one is
under his name.
yeah, yeah.
And the cast is Dhanush and Sonia Agrawal. Dhanush plays unsocial genius, I guess. So maybe like
Yeah.
extreme introverted genius. So he doesn't really like get along with his students in his college and stuff like that. So he is from an orphanage and then he goes to college. So the entire film is about what happens to him when he goes to college and how he falls in love with Sonia Agrawal in that movie.
So I think he did a crazy good job, especially for someone who just started doing
Yeah.
movies. That was a really good movie for him to showcase how weird, like,
How well he can pull it off.
yeah,
It was a very dark role. And one of the scenes, not sure if you remember, it's like he's in class and he's sleeping, and then the teacher like sees him sleeping and
oh
like
yeah, I
kind of
remember that. Yeah,
yeah, that scene is so like it's kind of cringy if you like actually
yeah,
watch it, but it's like he made you believe that like that's how he is as a person. So
yeah,
I thought with the character he did a really good job of like making sure that you can see that part of him being unsocial.
yeah.
And it's also like in the movie they say how like in the past he had like violent abuse. That kind of showcased through too, like the way the teacher kept like pulling on him, and then he just kind of like ended up answering the question. I thought that was like a really good way to connect those things.
Yeah, he did really pull off the moments that he did really make. You know how some of the scenes you were just cringing or you found it super weird.
Yeah,
But most, like, partly was because of the story, like what's going on, and part of it was his acting that made you think, "Oh, this is kind of weird."
even like another scene where he eats like food that goes bad, you're just like, what? It's not even like the idea is bad, right? Like eating
Yeah,
spoiled food, but the way he does it just makes it like 10 times worse. And I guess that's how you showcase how good of an
yeah,
actor you could be.
yeah. It was one of his popular movies. I think whenever people would before when people would try to imitate him and stuff, they would do one of the scenes
Yeah.
from this movie and imitate him. Because that's how popular it was. And it's a good movie to watch if you want to watch a kind of if you want to watch a romantic film that is weird. this is the one for you.
Yeah, for sure. The next film that we're going to talk about is Pudupeta. It
Yep,
is a 2006 film, also directed by Selvaragavan.
yep,
The cast is made out of Dhanush, Sneha, and Sonia Agrawal. And he did sing a song in this movie, and the music composer was
Yuvan.
Yuvan Shankar Raja.
Yep.
So this is said to be one of the finest and original gangster film. I guess they're saying it's original just because you haven't seen a gangster grow the way that Koki Kumar did. Oh,
Yeah,
he plays Koki Kumar, by the way.
yeah,
I felt like this movie was very dependent on the storyline, but it's also Dhanush did certain things for this character that helped it as well. So like one of the scenes of him like fighting, I always felt like those scenes were just the way he showed his anger towards violence was what made it more like, okay, he's a gangster, he's gonna go crazy, he's gonna do next things. And that's what made him wild too.
Oh, and another thing was the way the movie was shot. It made us like pay attention to Dhanush all the time, and like the lighting and stuff. So whenever
Mm.
it was a different kind of mood or whatever, the lighting would change. So
This was
that
a
made
lot for like a 2006 movie.
yeah. Even though it didn't do that well when it came out, it's probably because it was super dark and
Mm.
people would rather watch movies to be entertained
Yeah,
back then.
for sure.
So it makes sense, but it did deserve a lot more praise than it actually did at the time. So you know how usually for a movie they would, if it's a gangster, sometimes like say the
Mm.
hero is a gangster, they would just portray him as super cool and all of that. Well, this movie they
Yeah.
kind of show how they're normal people too, and they sometimes make a lot of mistakes and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
to end up.
For sure. I kept thinking like he would do things that were straight up nuts, and like the characters around him would tell him like, I don't think that's a good idea,
Yeah,
but he wouldn't listen. And I was like, whoa, like you never see a gangster do this. Like you never have that part where you can see them making mistakes,
yeah.
which might have also like impacted it being like an original film as well.
I was gonna say how Dhanush changes throughout the, so you know how, so at the beginning we see how he is at the end, but I mean like how he goes from a kid bunking
Yeah.
school to end up becoming a gangster like that.
First scene of him being like scared of his dad and he like pees his pants was like, okay, like he has evolved from that to like doing whatever he wants in the moment. He kept reaching for more things, you know what I mean? Like even
Yeah.
though he would have everything, he would still be like, I want this instead, I want this instead. And that's when it was like, oh my god, I don't know what he's doing anymore. I thought he did a really good job. I think this was Kadal Kondin was considered like good acting. I think this was as well too.
Yeah, so this is a really good Dhanush gangster movie that's super
Yeah.
dark that you could watch.
The next is a 2007 film by Vetrimaran and it's Poladavan. This is Vetrimaran's first film. Cast is Dhanush, Divyas Bidana, I think that's Ramya, right? And then Daniel
Yeah.
Balaji and Kishore. To me, I thought this was a film that kind of showed like typical Dhanush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like young Dhanush, carefree Dhanush.
Yeah,
And
carefree, and then he ends up getting problems and he has to
yeah,
change how he
and he
is.
goes behind a girl. It's like it was different though at the same time. So basically, this film is about Dhanush and his bike. The entire one of the things I felt that this didn't give him like much of an acting scope, just because it was like a young guy who's just working, going to work, trying to help his family. I don't think he had much of like an acting part to do with it. And
Yeah.
it's also if you watch Pudipete, like you said, all the scenes had to do with Dhanush, but this movie it wasn't like that. In Poladavan, there was like three perspectives going on. There was Dhanush's perspective, there was Daniel Balaji's perspective,
Yeah.
and there was Kishore's perspective. So
Yeah.
I think that's the best part of the film is that you saw everybody's reasoning for everything. But the reason that I like this movie is that Dhanush put like he liked that bike a lot, and everybody has something in their life where they're like, oh, this is my favorite thing and this is what brought me good luck or happiness or whatever. And then when that was taken away,
Yeah.
he had to like take steps to make sure he gets it back. So I thought that's what might have made the film more relatable for everybody, is just because of that small thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's at first you're like, oh, a bike and Dhanush, that doesn't make sense. But if you watch the film, Vetrimaran shows how well he likes
Yeah.
his bike, and then everything around it works super well.
Yeah, and like to normal people, like someone else, it might just be like, oh, they'll just think of it just as a bike.
Yeah.
But then everyone has their own thing that actually means something to them. And yeah, this movie isn't as much to do with Dhanush's acting, but more to do with how the actual movie was shot and how
Yeah.
the director shows all the cast members and stuff. Yeah, so this is a fun Danish movie to watch if you want to watch a movie where he goes from careless to actually having to do something in life.
The next film is Yaradini Mohini, 2007 eight film, right?
Yeah.
2008 film. It's directed by Mithun Jawar. I'm not sure if I pronounced
Yeah.
that right.
And
It's actually
Whitson,
written by
yeah,
Salva Raghavan. The cast is Dhanush, Nayandara, Raghavan. This is also kind of a stereotypical Dhanush where he's chill, he's having fun,
yeah,
goes behind a girl, and I don't think it gets really that serious though, right?
yeah.
Like there is like a couple of moments, but it's not like serious as Pollado and serious.
And I think it's a remake as well, but
Oh, of a Telugu film?
Telugu, yeah.
I don't think he got much of a part to really acting. Like his character didn't have like those moments. It's very like always just playing around, having fun.
Yeah, it just has it has some kind of, at one point it has a kind of sad part, but other than that,
Yeah.
it's more humorous and just a chill. So Yadani Mohini was a romantic comedy, but our next movie is Adakalam, and we've done a whole episode on it. So there's not too much we can say, but it's a action thriller film, and it's kind of got to do with Dhanush and his birds, yeah.
Oh, and his gang. And his gang.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to like a more informative episode, check that one out. We're just going to talk about parts that we liked in Adikalam of Dhanush's acting. This was like a role he's never done before. It's totally like, it wasn't gangster, it wasn't, he's still a carefree guy, but like he's from like the hood this time, or like, I don't know, is it rural?
Motherhood.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, and Vetrimaran puts him in like a whole other perspective, and I think he did a really good job with it. He carried his character with carefree, but also like importance as well. Alright, so he won a national award for best actor for this film.
Yeah, this movie did get lots of national awards as well. His acting did deserve it. And did you have any certain parts that made you really like his acting?
I guess like when he finds out about what his leader is actually doing and he kind of gets like heartbroken by it.
So I like the part when he's at the competition and his teacher told him not to use that one bird, but he has so much confidence in the bird and he thinks the bird can actually do it, and he doesn't listen to his teacher and just goes with the bird. And I really liked how like he acts in it, and he makes, like, we get from the audience point of view, we kind of get where he's coming from. Like, he did train his bird as much as he could, and the bird can fight. That was one of my favorite parts of his acting in the movie. Like Poladon, this is kind of story driven as well, and how they shot the movie does play a big part of them in the movie. So it's a good action village.
I guess we'll say, but we honestly don't know. Because he goes to like her house and she doesn't look like she's living in the village.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's like it's the whole place. I don't know.
Yeah, like he's riding his bike to see her, so I don't know how far that is.
But yeah, sure do check out our episode on Articulum if you want to hear more of our opinions on the movie. Next one we are going to talk about is Muna. The main reason is because this is the first movie he produced. Oh, yeah. The main reason is because it got him a lot of attention just for the music. So he did introduce Anirudh in this movie. He did start writing songs. So he wrote Why This Colaveri, and as most of you know, it did go viral and everyone was singing it and it was trending on YouTube. So people did, like, even though a joke as in the song isn't something you would take seriously, it is something that did get Tamil movies a lot of attention. So people did think, oh, let's try watching Tamil movies since the song is popular, I guess. And it's not like they just are like, oh, let's just watch Moona. They did watch other Tamil movies because they were like, okay, maybe Tamil movies will have a lot of songs like this, and then they realized Tamil movies are good too. Some of the movies actually have really good stories, and the acting is great too.
I don't know where this went, but okay, great. So this film is directed by Aishwarya Dhanush.
Yeah, his wife.
The cast is Dhanush and Shruti Hassan. Film is about Dhanush and Shruti Hassan falling in love, but
Yeah.
he later on is diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia. I don't think they actually mentioned schizophrenia, but it is schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this film, he's playing this person with both these disorders in the second half of the film. In the first half, it's just like a romantic film.
Yeah, carefree Dhanush being,
Yeah.
and then he sees a girl. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like the second part, if they focused on like the disorders itself and less on like him being sad about like
Yeah.
not telling his partner, it might have given him more like acting chances in the film.
Yeah.
But even like with the scenes he had, I think he did a good job, especially with fighting scene where he'd be like he'll get hit and then he'll start hitting them and he bangs his head on the car three
Yeah. Yeah.
times. And I'm just like, that's painful, but I guess like that's how he's doing, like that's how he's portraying that bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
Which I think he did a great job of. But I just feel like they should have mentioned schizophrenia and then people would have understood that it's not just bipolar, it's also like there's also another disorder that they're talking about as well. But overall, I think the movie was about how, I mean, the second half was about how, like, if you have disorders, like, treatments and options to it.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a good idea for a film, and I think he displayed it well as well. But
Yeah.
it just should have had a bit more explaining to do. That's what I think, at least.
Yeah. This movie, I think his acting was. I think he did his role well. Like when he gets angry and stuff, he does. We do actually think like, oh, how is he getting this angry? But when
Yeah.
we know his condition, it kind of makes sense. But yeah,
Yeah,
but
see, like with that one, they explained it, right? Like they say he's bipolar. Like they go to the doctor and he explains like the
Yeah.
bipolar extremes, but then they don't explain like him seeing things,
Yeah, true.
which might have like led the audience to think, oh, in bipolar you can see this as well. I felt like that part, if they explained it, then people could have understood as to why Dhanush was acting that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he'll like be sitting beside his friend and he'll start acting differently and he'll say, I'm not seeing things. I thought like if they explained that a bit better, then we could have appreciated like what Dhanush was doing.
Yeah. And I did really like his acting towards the end when he does get scared, but he's sad, and it's like loads of emotions at one time.
Right. Like
Yeah.
when he goes to get like treatments done, like he's so sad about it.
Yeah.
And you feel bad like he's like going through all this by himself. And I thought it was like a great way to show like within one film he goes from being like carefree, chill guy to like
So one, yeah, to an extreme of.
another two films that Dhanush did, and you might want to check it out as well, is Vanga, which is a 2011 film. It's directed by Hedy.
Yeah.
It's a rule film, but you've never seen Dhanush play a character like this. He is a very like mature character from the beginning, and he's very devoted to his family, and you don't really see him do this. So I think this is a great way to see a different light to see Dhanush in as well. Also, Mike Mena, which is also a 2011 film directed by Selvaragavan.
He's a person who likes photography, like taking pictures of animals and stuff like that, and he's trying to make it big in that, but he's not that great as well. But this is what his passion is, so he's trying to pursue that. And then one time he takes pictures. I think so the person who gives it to say like he calls it rubbish, and then he ends up taking his pictures. Afterwards, he kind of gets mental health issues, and the person who's there for him to help him is his wife, and his wife ends up helping him through it, and the story follows what happens. You know how for Selva movies, it sometimes is how the movie's taken as well, right? So this movie is more story driven and how the movie is actually shot. But he does do his acting does shine through as well, like how he shows how a person can change because of the stuff going around them. So this is the first half. So this was the first half of our Rise of Dhanush episode, and for next week's podcast, we'll talk about the second half. Tweet us and new podcast every Monday.